That afternoon we were going to swimming baths with school, and as usual me and Shannon paired up together straight away. When that was over, we got on the coach back together. Once we got off the coach, something didn't seem right. Because her mum told her brother was picking her up that day after school, but he never showed up. Normally if she sends one of the kids to pick Shannon up from school, they'd be waiting outside the gates before we even got there. But there was no one there. That was literally the last time I saw her.
The first thing that goes through your head, if your daughter's missing, is who's got her?
Literally, from the moment she'd walked out of those school gates, there was not one positive sighting.
How can Shannon go missing on a estate like that when everybody knows each other?
Hundreds of police are involved in a desperate search tonight.
There were lots of people on the sex offenders register who not only had direct links to Shannon's family, but also lived in close proximity.
But is it true?
Police emergency.
Hiya, I want to talk my daughter is missing, please.
Right, how old is she?
9.
9?
Yeah.
When did you last see her?
She went to school this morning.
Have you been in touch with the school? Can they confirm whether
She went to school at normal time at 3:10.
Right. What do they call her?
Shannon Matthews.
Has she been missing before?
No, first time.
I was doing my ironing, and one of my neighbours said to me, can we open community centre? She said, because one of Karen's kids gone missing. I left my kids at home, and we just stayed down at community house, put all lights on, just in case she decided to come home at middle at night. Weather were horrendous. It were raining, it were freezing. The wind were just bitter. No 9-year-old wouldn't want to be out in it. Next morning, the police had checked all houses and everywhere that they could think of that she would go to. Nobody had heard aught from her. And by that time, everybody were worried.
Well, I got the call as I was driving to work, 7 o'clock one morning, from my DCI, asking me to gather my team together to go to Dewsbury Police Station. The Homicide and Murder Inquiry team have responsibility for kidnaps and abductions. Shannon had never been missing before. It was unusual, it was out of character, and nobody had seen her hiding the hair of her, basically. So West Yorkshire Police made the decision to put as many resources as possible into the search for Shannon Matthews.
There are more than 250 police officers searching for Shannon Matthews in back gardens, in homes and in bins. The search for Shannon is now an urgent one.
I I got a call to say a young girl hadn't returned home from school. I got in my car, raced against time, put a completely new address into my sat-nav and found myself on Dewsbury Moor. By the time I arrived, the police search was in full swing. It was so cold. The search is going on tonight. I can already feel the temperatures are dropping to round about freezing, but we've heard that the very latest information that Shannon had, in fact, told some of her friends she was planning to run away. Let's hope that she is found safe and well very, very soon.
It was second night that she were missing, that everything came together. Everybody just started coming forward saying, right, is there hope we can do, hope we can do? And we just came up with just, all we can do is go out looking.
Right, can you just come in so they can tell you where to search?
My mum was the one that led the search. The street were really busy because everybody were out, like, panicking. It was crazy, everybody were just out and kids were getting upset because nobody had seen her.
The first thing that goes through your head, if your daughter's missing, especially your daughter, I mean, the first thing you'd be thinking is, who's got her? What are they doing to her?
One by one, the street filled with van after satellite dish after satellite. Suddenly you were becoming aware that this was a big story.
Good evening. Hundreds of police are involved in a desperate search tonight for a 9-year-old girl who is missing from home in West Yorkshire. Shannon Matthews hasn't been seen since leaving school yesterday.
Our correspondent, Mark Simpson, is in Dewsbury tonight. Mark, what are they saying there?
Well, Hugh, all day today, Shannon Matthews' mother has been waiting inside the family home here, waiting in vain for her 9-year-old daughter to come home. She's been inside the house all day.
Shannon, if you're out there, please, darling, come home. I love you so much. Me and your dad, your brothers, your sisters, everybody loves you. Your dad's missing you so much, Shannon. He's even out looking for you. Please come home, Shannon. If you're out there, come home. If anybody's got my daughter, my beautiful princess daughter, please bring her home safe.
On that media appeal, Karen looked rough. It looked like she cried buckets. The bags under her eyes, everything. Everybody felt for her.
I was sat at home, just watching it on telly. I started crying because nobody knew what had happened.
It got to the point where I thought, they're not going to find her, she's not going to come home. She's dead.
With me working at the Knowleshill School, which was the main infant school on Moorside Estate, we used to read with the children in the class. And Shannon Matthews was one of the children that I used to read with. Shannon was a very quiet young girl. She always had a smile for me. She always seemed happy.
My name's Megan Aldridge and I was Shannon's best friend. From day one at school, like, we just got along, we clicked, like, we were like pretty much the same person, if you get what I mean. We just used to mess about at school all the time, like, as soon as we see each other, that's it, we'd run up to each other and pretty much jump on each other. We just got along with each other more than we did with anybody else in school. Because me and her used to get bullied all the time. It was horrible. We were getting bullied for the same reasons. The way we used to dress and how we'd have his hair for school and stuff like that.
Shannon was not the kind of child that went roaming, she'd go to school and straight home. She didn't roam around the estate like some of the children. So it was a mystery how somebody managed to kidnap Shannon, really.
More than 200 police officers, as well as her family, friends and neighbours, are involved in the search to find Shannon.
I'm Paul Kettlewell. I was a detective constable on the homicide and major inquiry team. I have a daughter myself. I couldn't imagine losing a child in such circumstances. Can't even begin to comprehend what that must feel like. I attended the first briefing. It was as big a briefing, personnel-wise, as I've attended in my police career.
Every time we looked out that window, there were police. They had dogs. They had the sticks to search in the long bushes. The helicopter were out. They were even stopping cars to see if they'd seen Shannon.
We'd no idea what had happened to Shannon, and so we had to cover every avenue and every possibility. When a child goes missing, or indeed with any police investigation, the first golden rule is you've got to clear the ground from underneath your feet. You've got to know what's gone on. You need to understand your victimology. And in that respect, you're going to get all those answers from the family and the nearest and dearest. So I met Karen Matthews at Dewsbury Police Station. I explained to Karen what we needed and what we wanted. We spent nearly 6 hours with Karen, getting all the background information in relation to Shannon and what she usually did with the time, who her friends were. And certainly, Karen Matthews did paint a rosy picture of the family life.
I went with other officers, including the family liaison officers, to search Shannon's bedroom and obtain any items that may be of relevance. And as we entered the property, Karen never even looked up or engaged or acknowledged our entry. We just went about our business almost as though she weren't there.
We got our school books and we got a composite set of Shannon's fingerprints so that we had a reference point so that when we were searching anywhere, we could send in fingerprint experts to examine premises to see if she'd been in there. We introduced forensic scientists to those houses as well to search for traces of blood or body fluids. There were 22 specially trained cadaver dogs within the UK, and we deployed 18 of those.
They searched everybody's house. There were 5 officers and a dog that turned up to mine. They searched my kitchen, every room in my house. They put the dog up in the loft. Obviously didn't find anything, but They didn't leave any graves, like they looked everywhere.
I remember the police coming to me and asking if I'd go out in the van to help look for her. We were on like the greenway and stuff where all foxholes and stuff like that are. I thought she might be down there, and that made me think they're not gonna find her, she's not gonna come home.
Literally, from the moment she'd walked out of those school gates, there was not one positive sighting.
No sign. No sightings. No discovery of any belongings. It was almost as though she'd walked out of those school gates and disappeared off the face of the earth.
I was just so confused about how she'd gone missing. She wasn't seen going into a car, there were no strangers or anything like that, so it's confusing. So I was just thinking, how can she have gone missing?
The search goes on for Shannon Matthews, still missing after 4 days. Family, friends and neighbours of the 9-year-old have scoured the Dewsbury area, while day and night a team of 250 police officers are doing the same.
West Yorkshire Police have released new CCTV footage showing 9-year-old Shannon Matthews just before she disappeared.
This was the day that she went missing. She'd been to the weekly school swimming lesson at the local baths. I remember at the time thinking, this will really help.
The last afternoon I saw her, something didn't seem right. Because her mum told her brother was picking her up that day after school, but he never showed up. Normally if like she sends one of the kids to pick Shannon up from school, they'd be waiting outside the gates before we even got there. But there was no one there. The last time I seen her, she was walking down the road from school, even though she should have been walking up the road. I thought it were a bit weird, especially when she wouldn't walk home on her own. She never walked home on her own.
She was walking downwards, not up.
A different way home, you mean?
Yeah.
What's it been like without Shannon being here?
I'm really, really sad. And if you know where she is, just call and tell us where she is.
Okay.
Good evening. On Look North, West Yorkshire Police now fear that 9-year-old Shannon Matthews was snatched from the streets of Dewsbury.
I was 18 years old when I became a journalist. My very first story was the Yorkshire Ripper. The Yorkshire Ripper was the biggest manhunt West Yorkshire has ever had. And although the time was so different, although it was a build of 5 years during the Ripper investigation that grew and grew, the same level of anxiety, the same level of anger, who could have done this, was very palpable.
What police say quite categorically, that due to the number of resources they've had on the streets day and night, that if the little girl was hiding, they would have found her.
We were alive to the possibility that she could well have been abducted and was not going to turn up alive again.
It was a surprise to everybody in the investigation team, the actual number of people who were on the sex offenders register within that locality.
It's like dropping a pebble into a pond, isn't it? And the ripples tend to go out forever. There were so many. The task ahead of us was not insurmountable, but it was going to be a serious undertaking.
Nick and myself would trace, interview and eliminate, or in fact raise the profile of people of interest, people who were on the sex offenders register.
Each had to be seen and alibied.
The names just kept coming at us and the work just kept piling up.
We knew on the estate that the coppers were checking out pedos' houses. Because they searched their houses first, they made it so obvious where pedos live. I was more amazed at how many were actually living near the schools. We've got 2 schools. We had infant school and junior school, and the amount of pedos on that footpath to both schools was unbelievable.
It wasn't just that we registered sex offenders within the district. There was the fact that sex offenders were visiting the district. We know on the day that Shannon was reported missing, 2 bail hostels in the area had been holding counselling sessions, and there were actual sex offenders coming from outside the district into Dewsbury.
That data points to the fact that in 76% of cases where a child has been abducted for sexual purposes, they'll be found dead within 6 hours. Within 12 hours, you can guarantee that 96% will be dead. And within 3 days, 100%.
There were lots of people on the sex offenders register who not only had direct links to Shannon's family, but also lived in close proximity to Shannon, a large amount.
the tasks is to obtain a full and detailed family tree. Unfortunately, in Shannon's case, it wasn't a family tree so much as a family forest. The branches of that family tree continued almost forever.
Shannon Matthews is from a very big extended family. She was one of 7 children. She herself had 7 children to 5 different fathers. And so it was quite a complicated picture.
Identifying all the people within that family circle to identify and go and speak to was a task in itself.
We looked at close family friends and members and relatives of Shannon Matthews that needed to be interviewed and eliminated. Some of those were family members, not all of them. And some of those were sex offenders, but not all of them.
Shannon's real dad was a fella called Leon Rose. He was in his late 20s, early 30s, from a working class background in Yorkshire. He lived in a community a few miles down the road, a semi-rural town. He never wanted to chat too much, never gave that many interviews.
For the sake of the tape machines, just your name, please.
Yeah, it's Leon Rose.
Okay.
I've been looking out every day, basically. Out driving about, handing out leaflets, just asking about if anyone's seen out. You know what I mean? Any littlest detail could mean a great thing. A great big deal.
Shannon's father, Leon Rose, was interviewed. He did have access to Shannon and he'd seen her quite a lot. But I know that those visits had died off, because I think there was issues still between him and Karen.
Do you have a theory, an idea of what's happened?
At the moment, I've no idea. All I know is she went to go home from school, but she didn't go. That's basically all I know. In that sense, I don't know where she's gone, what she was thinking. You know what I mean? I don't know, no.
She had written on her wall, apparently, that she was talking about wanting to live with you or to come back and...
Yeah, that's what I'd heard, yeah.
If that's what she's done, but she's run away, she's scared or whatever, I mean, is there a message there?
Well, basically, it's like she's watching this, like, you know, go home and we'll sort something out, you know what I mean? I would like to see her again.
And the longer this goes on, the more worried everybody must be that she's done harm in some way.
It's been 2 weeks now and tomorrow. You know what I mean? She's 9-year-old and she's out, well, she's still out there, 9-year-old, you know what I mean? It's going to be hard for any 9-year-old.
There was a note scribbled on Shannon's bedroom wall saying that she wanted to live with her dad. That gave us some concern. It almost pointed to the fact that there were issues within the family, which was at odds with what Karen was telling us about things being perfect.
Craig Meehan was high on the suspects list early on because of his involvement with the family.
Craig Meehan was 22 years old. He was interested in computers. He was interested in football. Altogether, he came across as quite an awkward figure.
Are you still hopeful?
Yeah.
He worked as a fishmonger in a local supermarket and didn't seem the brightest. When we first saw them together, they cut a pretty unlikely looking couple.
And what about what the community is doing here?
Really brilliant. They're non-stopping every day, out searching leaflets and everything like that.
Craig Meehan just seemed weird. There was just something about him. He positioned himself in front without saying anything. You would ask him to do an interview and he'd go no, but yet he was there, wearing the T-shirt. I just thought, do you know, have you got something to do with it?
Karen's mother and father gave an interview with one of the weekend tabloids, accusing Craig of sometimes being violent towards their daughter.
Let me ask you directly, have you ever hurt a child? Would you ever consider hurting Shannon?
No.
Were you ever cruel to her?
No. There's even a lot of people that could back that up. There's a lot of my friends and family around here. So they even trust me with their kids. I look after my babysit, we play, don't we? Same with I would never hurt anyone, basically.
Night that we did the walk, Karen wasn't going to come down. She just said she just didn't want to. She didn't give a reason. I just told her to come down, and the community were there for her and her daughter. And I think it'd be nice if you showed your face so you can see what support is actually out there for you. Once you were talked into coming down, everything were all right. I mean, obviously, the press were all on her as soon as they clocked her. But we hid her in the middle of everybody so the press couldn't get to her.
She was certainly being protected well by friends who really cared about her, who were saying, you know, she'll come out, but she's going to lead the march, but she didn't want to do any interviews.
The time, 27 minutes to 8. The search for 9-year-old Shannon Matthews is now one of the biggest of its kind ever undertaken by West Yorkshire Police. Well, yesterday I talked to both Shannon's mum and Craig Meehan. There's been a lot of coverage of not least your family, your parents and your brother, talking about how Shannon had a difficult, and your other children had a difficult relationship with Craig.
No. That's untrue.
I'm quoting your parents. We've never seen him, Craig, beat Shannon with our own eyes, but the kids have said it's happened. They've suggested that Craig was hitting Shannon.
No, look, he hasn't. Never, ever touched her. Never.
It was a tough interview from Radio 4, and by that point, Karen and Craig, they'd been involved in a few national media interviews.
Craig, Karen's parents say that they've been trying to persuade Karen to leave you because they say that ever since you've been around the last 4 years, that the children have been unhappy. They say there've been a whole series of family bust-ups. And people are going to wonder if there's a very deliberate reason why they are coming out and saying this so deliberately 3 weeks after Shannon disappeared.
Well, basically, that's all lies.
So when people said that you had a difficult relationship with Shannon, did you? How was it? Did you ever lay a finger on her?
Nope. Haven't done, never will.
When I heard that interview, I thought this is all getting a bit suspicious. Something's not right, is it? I just think something's going on in those four walls. It's not right.
When I went to work on the Moorside estate, I introduced myself to Karen. But she didn't speak to me because she classed me as a grasser. And a lot of people don't like grassers. I knew I'd have to keep a close eye on her because she did have a few problems, did Karen. She was very impressionable and very susceptible to people who started being nice to her because she thought they wanted to be her friends. My biggest concern about Karen's house was it was like the estate party house. There were loads of people in and out of her house all the time, and then there were kids in it. So yeah, it was one of the party houses on the estate. The biggest one. But that still went on. Nothing changed. If my child had gone missing, I wouldn't have people. The only people around the house would be the people who's helping me. I wouldn't have a lot of people in the house. I wouldn't be drinking and carrying on. And that's what made me realise there's something not right.
A really different Karen appeared. She'd had time to collect and compose herself. There were some black rings round her eyes, signs of tiredness, although the red rings from the crying had gone. She spoke very carefully, very deliberately.
Words probably can't sum up how difficult this has been. But it has been so long now. I mean, what is your daily routine at the moment when, you wake up first thing in the morning, if you do manage to sleep?
Well, it's hard to sleep, really. It's just, I don't feel the same with them not being there, really. It just feels empty. Well, I think that somebody out there who knows Shannon was supposed to probably know me as well. And I just want her home safe, really.
Does it make, if it was somebody that knew her and somebody that might know you, does that in a terrible way make you suspicious of people that are close to you?
It makes me think now I can't trust people who's really close to me anymore. I just can't trust them.
Those words were weird. Those words seemed to point to somebody near her.
Who was she referring to? Was it a slip? Was she saying what she thought the police might want her to say? Or was she just saying the first thing that came into her head?
No, I can't trust people who's really close to me anymore. I just can't trust them.
It just seemed odd that she was making that statement. Suddenly, it felt as though something was beginning to unfold. It suggested that she may have been holding things back and that she did know more than she was letting on.
I says to my husband, I says, there's something not right about that. There's something funny about it.
I can't trust people who's really close to me anymore. I just can't trust them.
Craig led the way up the stairs. I remember different pairs of shoes lined up on the steps as we walked up the slightly threadbare carpet. Karen was with us, but only very briefly, and she said, "I can't be in here," and very quickly left. We got to the door of the room that Shannon shared with one of her siblings, and I'll never forget, on the door of the room, scrawled on there in clearly a child's hand, it said Shannon, and name of sibling room, keep out. We go inside. The interview went on with Craig in the bedroom. But then, for whatever reason, Karen returned. And she came in so quietly, I didn't notice that she was there at first. And it wasn't until I asked her about the relationship between herself and Craig at that time that there was the first show of emotion from either of them. Karen said to Craig, "He's my rock." And it was Craig that filled up with tears. And Karen said, "Don't you start now, Craig." Craig just about held it together, and the two of them hugged. What struck me afterwards was that it was Craig who had been the one that was going to show the tears, and not Karen.
We had a meeting and we just said, right, what else can we do? So that's when we brought out the posters. We're a company that donated a photocopier. We went to Leeds United, handed out leaflets there. Huddersfield Town, Leeds Town Centre. We just covered every area we could think of. We did it back to T-shirts. Everybody were putting their heart and soul into it.
It was inspirational. It was incredible. They never slept. This extraordinary community response to try and find this little girl.
Shannon, if you're out there, please, darling, come home. I love you so much. Me and your dad, your brothers, your sisters, everybody loves you. Your dad's missing you so much, Shannon. He's even out looking for you. Please come home, Shannon. If you're out there, come home. If anybody's got my daughter, my beautiful Prince's daughter, please bring her home safe.
There's been a lot of coverage of not least your family, your parents and your brother, talking about how Shannon had a difficult, and your other children had a difficult relationship with Craig.
No, that's untrue.
I'm quoting your parents, "We've never seen him, Craig, beat Shannon with our own eyes, but the kids have said it's happened." They've suggested that Craig was hitting Shannon.
No, look, he hasn't. Never, ever touched her. Never.
Craig, Karen's parents say that they've been trying to persuade Karen to leave you because they say that ever since you've been around the last 4 years that the children have been unhappy. They say there've been a whole series of family bust-ups. And people are going to wonder if there's a very deliberate reason why they are coming out and saying this so deliberately 3 weeks after Shannon disappeared.
Well, basically, that's all lies.
When I heard that interview, I thought this is all getting a bit suspicious. Something's not right, is it? I just think something's going on in those four walls. It's not right.
The first amount that the son offered was £20,000. Now that is a lot of money and would focus minds. And it was really good that the son did do that because mass readership, mass circulation, it could only have really pushed the message out there.
Craig and Karen were enjoying leading the way on the marches. They were leading the searches. But I felt that there was just something wasn't right. There was an almost enjoyment of coming out to the camera bulbs, to the television cameras.
There was a change of mood towards Karen and Craig. People started questioning their lifestyle and their sincerity. Karen was beginning to put out comments which were plucked from nowhere, like suggesting that it may be someone that knew her or she knew who had involvement in this, almost as though she was laying a trail. The media were becoming suspicious.
What we do know is that on the estate, the people closest to her, those that were supporting her in the search, they were starting to have their suspicions. But it was because they were seeing more of the behind closed doors Karen than the public face of Karen.
Christine Freeman, one of the family liaison officers, was a little bit concerned about some inconsistencies in the things that Karen explained and kept changing her mind. A lot of that was around the fact that Karen seemed unconcerned about her daughter's disappearance. She seemed unconcerned about the progress of the investigation. It was ringing a few alarm bells. The officers did report to me one particular occasion where TV news teams were outside the house, filming the house. It was a live feed and they were watching themselves on the TV and laughing about it. All rather bizarre behaviour for someone that's lost the 9-year-old daughter. I have no idea where she is. It did raise suspicions in my mind that she had some idea of what had happened to Shannon. But at that time, there was absolutely nothing to link her to Shannon's disappearance.
The son offered a £50,000 reward.
The question is, was that the moment when the reward money reached £50,000, the moment that Karen Matthews had been waiting and praying for? The coverage of the search for Shannon, for whatever reason, dropped off a cliff from the national perspective.
Everybody was aware of the Madeleine McCann abduction, and everybody was aware of the fact that obviously it was very, very high profile.
It's hard to describe how utterly despairing it was to be named our Guido and subsequently portrayed in the media as suspects in our own daughter's abduction.
I spoke to Craig and Karen about this, and Karen, very uncharitably, I thought, came out with this line about the McCanns. We are nothing like them. They are snobs, they are celebrities, they have all the money. Some money being expressly mentioned. And it just came across as harsh. It almost felt an ugly thing to say. I mean, mother to mother? Is that what she should be coming out with? Should she be mentioning the money? Of course she shouldn't.
There was quite a large fund that had been set up to assist in the search for Madeleine McCann. I heard that there was somebody within the Matthews family had approached the McCann fund or foundation for money.
I understand it had come from a telephone call within the Matthews family home. We don't know who made the call. And a discussion of providing some sort of financial assistance had made it relatively high up the chain of command within the trust around the McCanns.
I think they were suspicious of the nature of the approach, and to my knowledge, no money was given. It did suggest that people were being money motivated by this, were trying to make money on the back of Shannon's fate.
I drove down there, expecting Craig to be at the house. Knocked on the door, but there was no answer. And then I knew that the door was normally open. I very carefully opened the door, and then the most astonishing thing, Karen jumped out from behind the door, tickled me from behind, and shouted, "Boo!" And I remember being completely bewildered and thinking, this is crazy. I've come round here to organise an interview to carry on the publicity for the search for your missing child, and you're playing weird games of hide and seek and jumping out and tickling me, even though you barely know me. That should have been a huge, huge alarm bell for me.
We realised we were dealing with a dysfunctional family. Karen Matthews' lifestyle involved sort of smoking, watching TV, computer games. It just didn't seem to be the kind of house where a child's interests were at the fore.
When we started to find out more about Karen's background, we found out that she had 7 children. Karen herself was one of 7. She had come from a solidly working class family, lived in the Batley and Dewsbury area. Her dad worked in a local biscuit factory, big employer in the area. We also found out that Karen had a difficult relationship with her parents and had become separated or estranged from them at a relatively early age. Life had not been easy for her. She'd had a tough time of it.
We found that Shannon and one of her siblings were put on the at-risk register in 2002 by social services. They looked into the case and found what they called low-level neglect. Children being allowed to go out on their own and stay in the house unsupervised. But it would have been insufficient for care orders to be imposed on Shannon and her sibling. It did raise questions about the welfare of the children. And it made us realise that it was a chaotic lifestyle that Shannon had.
It did concern me that Karen might have neglected the children, and that's why I kept a close eye on the children to make sure that they was okay. And there wasn't no sign of neglect, but I didn't get in the house, so I didn't know what were happening in the house. That were always going through my mind about the neglect of the children. But I worked with the school as well. And if the child started acting different, or went to school a bit dirty or upset or something, the school would tell me and I would just walk past the house. And a lot of the houses, I could go knock on the door and the parents would be all right with me, but Karen, I couldn't knock on her door because she wouldn't speak to me, and she just didn't like me because of what my job was.
He was obviously keen to speak to us. A little bit agitated, to be fair.
He says, I don't want to get anybody into trouble, but has anybody spoken to Paul Drake?
And I said, well, who is he?
He's Craig Meehan's uncle.
Well, you might not know him as Paul Drake. He's actually changed his name to Michael Donovan.
He's a bit of a fantasist and likes to change his name. And then he said to me, he says, it's just that he normally comes here nearly every day to visit. And since that little girl went missing, he's not been once.
Michael Donovan was aged in his 30s, although he looked to be much older than that. His real name was Paul Drake. He was the brother to Craig Meehan's mother, Alice. It was understood that he changed his name to Michael Donovan, or Mick Donovan, as he was known, after a character in a hugely popular 1980s science fiction series called V. Apparently people used to bully him because of his name, Paul Drake. And he became obsessed with the series, and the lead character, this Michael Donovan, was a really strong character, so changed his name to Michael Donovan.
The gentleman told us that he'd been at a funeral gathering, and at that gathering, he told us that he'd seen Shannon sitting on the knee of Paul Drake, Michael Donovan. It just felt as though a little bit too intimate to be comfortable with, really. It was showing her a lot of comfort and affection, if you like, sitting on his knee.
Michael Donovan, he didn't feature anywhere on the extended family tree that was posted up in the incident room. He'd never been mentioned by anybody.
Located the door, banged on that, no response. So our initial thoughts were, well, doesn't look as though anybody's here.
So we knocked on an address directly at the side of the address that we were interested in. And we spoke to a lady occupant there who told us that he didn't actually use that door, and that if Michael was in, he wouldn't answer the door in any event, because he didn't answer the door to anybody. So armed with that information, Nick went to speak to the other side.
A lady confirmed that Michael Donovan would never answer his door to anybody. So I said, why is that then? She said, he just won't answer his door. I said, well, is he in? Do you know if he's in? And she said, well, is his car there? I said, I don't know, which is his car? So she says, he's got a Peugeot parked down here. She said, well, if his car's there, he's in. He's definitely in. And he never goes anywhere without he takes that car. I said to her, I says, have you heard him moving about then? She says, oh, yes. I said, well, when? She said, well, not long before you got here. I said, have you heard anybody else moving about there? She says, oh, yeah. I said, so you've heard somebody else moving up? Yeah, oh. She says, I don't know, I've just heard the sound of tiny footsteps of a toddler. I called Paul over. We just looked at each other. I said, Paul, we need to get in here. Then it began to dawn on me. He knows now that we're here, and he knows we're trying to get in. The fear then arises that if she is in there, is he going to harm her?
I walked up the flight of stairs. I found another door that was locked. No door handle, no lock. It was clearly bolted from the inside. So I told them to put the door in. We just stood for a moment and the flat was eerily silent. I did a quick cursory looked round the flat to discover it was empty. There's deathly silence. And then I heard a little girl's voice. She said, "Stop it. You're frightening me now." I knew the voice had come from within the room. I couldn't work out where it was coming from. And then there was some noises from within the double bed base. We had her. She was alive. It was very emotional, I have to say. As I'm descending the stairs with Shannon, Nick came up. I've got her.
It's no secret, you know, two grizzly old detectives with tears in their eyes, basically. As I say, we thought we'd saved a life.
It was unbelievable because, as I said, we thought we were looking for a little girl's body, and she was alive and well. She looked fit and well, but she looked absolutely worn out, washed out, bewildered, just lost, really. She'd clearly been through a lot in those 3 weeks. And you could see it in her face. I asked her where Michael was. I said, "Where's Mike?" She says, "He's where I was. He's under the bed."
My Nokia phone was ringing in my top pocket. I answered the phone and it was Paul. He said, "He's under the bed." Michael Donovan was dragged out from beneath what was in effect 2 beds together to make a double bed. It wasn't apparent then there was a hole between them. He was struggling, he was angry, he was annoyed. He was escorted from the premises. I said to the team, I said, "Right, we can lock it down now. It's now a crime scene." I joined Paul outside. Shannon was sitting on the back seat. She was shivering, obviously cold.
She was sat on a pile of evidence bags on the back seat, looking a little bit bewildered. We just sat and looked at one another. We couldn't believe that we'd found this little girl.
I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say that nobody on that inquiry team expected to find Shannon alive.
I got a call from DC Kettlewell, quite excited, and explained that he'd found Shannon Matthews. And I says, "You're having me on?" He says, "It's true, she's sat here with me in the car." And he says, "Look, I'll put her on the phone." And I spoke to Shannon on the phone. I was completely gobsmacked at that time. I just couldn't believe what had happened. Composed herself after a few moments, and I said, "Right, just get her down here to Dewsbury Police Station." When Shannon was recovered, the family liaison officers weren't with Karen, so they went immediately to pick her up at home and brought her down to the police station at Dewsbury.
We're just waiting, love. Do you want to come down to community house? I got a text message from a lad at college saying I heard they found that girl at the back of the car. We don't know, we haven't heard it official.
It's not official.
I'll try ringing that. I got a phone call. Hello? And somebody says to me, I'm in Asda, and everybody's saying in Asda that she's been found. It's going round Asda. It's got to be true. So I rung the police. It's going round left, right and centre. You found Shannon at Batley car.
It's been Julie's on the phone now trying to find her.
Right, that's fine, love, that's fine. You've just answered it in a breath.
No.
Do you do this?
What?
True?
What?
When I rung up earlier on,
Yeah, go on.
the turn on, the woman said, not to my knowledge, didn't she?
Yeah.
He's just turned around and said, I can't confirm nothing.
Possibility.
What's the rumour then? Where is it? And then I got another phone call. But is it true? It's true! Overwhelmed, really. So much mixed emotions. Oh, come on.
Come on, baby.
Well, it was like a dream, wasn't it? Because at the end of the day, this kid had been found. But she'd also, not only had she been found, she'd been found alive and well. So it was like, you know, triple relief, if you like. Then you'd sort of like through your head, is she all right? Yes, she was all right. We found out she was all right, which was more relief. We found her! Yeah. Alive and well in Batley car.
Absolutely astonishing. And my emotion was nothing to what the people in that community house must have been going through, who put everything into finding that little girl.
When I got back from school, my mum was still crying. So God knows how long she'd been crying for. She'd been so stressed and it was just like she could breathe. Like, she's been found, she's alive.
It was almost like a dream, driving to Dewsbury police station to deliver Shannon to my colleagues, to say, we've done it, as a team. We parked the car up. And we walked across the police station yard, holding Shannon's hand. And they were literally hanging out the windows to look. Everybody was trying to keep it low-key, but people just couldn't resist coming to have a little peek at Shannon.
To say the atmosphere was euphoric within the station is just almost an understatement. It was such a massive relief. People were hugging, there were people in tears. We were all very emotional, but delighted to see her back. And it was probably one of the most surreal moments in my police service. I'd never, ever expected to see that poor girl, if I'm brutally honest with you.
We had to get Shannon identified, formally identified. And the person to do that was Karen. I had the task of carrying out the formal identification.
We'd made a decision that she'd just be allowed to see her behind glass.
We used the identification suite in the Dewsbury police station, which had a one-way mirror.
Shannon obviously was regarded effectively as a crime scene.
If there was any contact between Karen and Shannon at that time, we would have what we call cross-contamination. I asked her a straight question, is this Shannon? Which she said, yes. And that was it.
She showed little or no reaction. She didn't ask why she was not being allowed to see or hug or kiss her daughter. She didn't ask any questions about Shannon's welfare.
Shannon had been missing now for those 24 days, not knowing, you know, how she was.
She seemed pretty much as she had through the investigation, detached, no emotion shown whatsoever, little concern for Shannon. And it obviously left the officers in a state of shock, really.
We found out through a person that came down to the community house and said that she was found at Craig's uncle's. I think if she hadn't been found where she was found, I don't think we'd have batted an eyelid, but when it's a family member, something's not right somewhere. Everybody was just saying, oh, I wonder what's going to happen now.
Unbelievable. Michael Donovan was the uncle of Shannon's stepdad, Craig. Michael Donovan had never been mentioned by anybody. And there'd been myriad conversations about all sorts of things, including the different members of the respective families, just in conversation. So when we found out that this was the name of the man that Shannon had been found to be staying with for all that time, and then we found out that he was a relative of the Meehan family, nobody could believe it. Nobody had ever even heard of him before.
Both Karen Matthews, when she'd been spoken to, and certainly some of the Meehan family had not mentioned him at all. It was almost as though he didn't exist.
Michael Donovan, he lived alone. He had learning difficulties, we discovered, and this followed an accident he'd been involved in on the M62. There was some suggestion he'd worked in IT or something similar, but the picture we picked up of him from his neighbours in Batley-Car, that he was a bit of a loner, and his pride and joy was his silver Peugeot, and he spent a lot of time cleaning that and working on it. One of the problems we had was that the initial name we were given for him was Paul Drake, but he changed his name by deed poll, and the name he chose was Michael Donovan, a character from a 1980s science fiction series called V. What they were suspicious about was that Donovan was there, bouncing Shannon on his knee, with Karen in close proximity, and it just didn't seem right.
It just felt as though a little bit too intimate to be comfortable with, really. It was showing her a lot of comfort and affection, if you like, sitting on his knee. It's possible that Shannon wasn't even aware that she was a victim. I mean, she's a 9-year-old child, he's an adult, you know, She does know him, it's not as though he's a complete stranger. She'd been sitting on his knee at the family funeral. I think it's more likely that when Donovan picked her up from outside school on that afternoon, that she just thought Uncle Michael had come to pick her up.
When Michael Donovan was arrested, he shouted out to the officers, "Get Karen down here. She's in it with me."
He was very quick to tell the police that it was a plot between him and Karen, and it was to extort £50,000 reward. Once the reward money was on offer, he was going to take her to Dewsbury Market, walk round in the sight of CCTV to show he was with her, and he was going to claim that he'd just discovered her walking around, and then they would go and say, we've discovered her, let's have the reward money.
What was interesting was he refused to speak. While he was interviewed by the police, he sat there and let his lawyer, his solicitor, do the talking for him.
She said I was to keep Shannon and look after her, and she, Karen, would report her missing. I said, "What do I do then?" She said, "You'll take her back to your place and keep her there until I phone you." I said I wasn't happy about this, and she then threatened, if I didn't do it, to get 3 lads onto me. And I was frightened that if I didn't do it, they would come after me. She told me just to do what she said. She said if I told anyone, or I went to anyone, I would be dead.
He claimed he was coerced into this by Karen and that she held sway over him. She was the powerful character in it. But the impression we got, despite it all, is that there was a sort of native cunning about him.
Donovan did try to paint a picture that he treated Shannon quite well, and it was evident that he had bought clothes for her. And I think he did try to explain that he'd done his best to look after her.
He took her out on at least 3 occasions. He took her out in his car. 2 of those trips out were to the park. He was careful though. He chose to go either at dusk or after dark. When Shannon was in the back of his car, she was to sit there, hood pulled up at all times. It does seem staggering that he felt able to do it, but he did, and nobody noticed. But then, Mick Donovan's life appears to be one of such. Nobody noticed Mick Donovan.
He gave an account that Karen had threatened him and that she'd threatened him with violence and 3 men had threatened him. But quite honestly, that's all we had to link Karen to the offence. There was no telephone communication between the pair of them before or after Shannon's disappearance. There was nothing to implicate her in any way. We didn't think that she was entirely innocent, but we didn't have the grounds to arrest her at that time.
walked up the flight of stairs. I found another door that was locked. No door handle, no lock. It was clearly bolted from the inside. So I told them to put the door in. We just stood for a moment and the flat was eerily silent. I did a quick cursory look round the flat to discover it was empty. There's deathly silence. And then I heard a little girl's voice. We had her. She was alive. It was very emotional, I have to say. As I'm descending the stairs with Shannon, Nick came up. I've got her.
It's no secret, you know, two grizzly old detectives with tears in their eyes, basically. As I say, we thought we'd saved a life.
It was unbelievable because, as I said, we thought we were looking for a little girl's body, and she was alive and well.
Found less than a mile from where she was last seen in Dewsbury, Yorkshire, police broke into a flat, it's thought after a tip-off, and found Shannon in a divan drawer, unharmed.
Family and friends of missing 9-year-old Shannon Matthews are tonight celebrating her remarkable rescue.
You could feel the difference in the mood on the moor. It was like a pin had pricked the tension. There was people everywhere, and all they wanted to do was have a party.
I think when you heard Shannon was back.
Just excited.
Yeah. What was the first thing you said when you heard Shannon was back?
She's coming up.
How much are you looking forward to seeing her?
Loads.
Literally everybody that was involved, like all the neighbours from up there and all kids that knew Shannon and family and stuff were there, and everyone just was over the moon, actually over the moon.
First time I saw Karen after Shannon was found, I asked her how come she hadn't been able to see her. And she said because social services were having to ask her questions and police were having to ask her questions. She said that she'd seen her through a glass window. She seemed okay. She didn't seem worried or anything. We were all surprised that she wasn't allowed to see her and hold her, because that'd be the first thing that I wanted to do, but she seemed to accept it. I think the people in the community were more bothered about not seeing Shannon than she was. We all expected Shannon to come back on the estate, expected life to go on as normal, but no, it didn't happen.
The decision was made that a protection order would be taken out on Shannon, and so any meetings from there on had to be organised with social services, and at their behest, really.
She wasn't returned to the family home, so the media were all on hand, waiting for the big reunion picture with happy mum and smiling daughter outside the house at Dewsbury Moor, which never happened.
Karen Matthews emerged from her house this afternoon after 24 unbelievable hours. This must have seemed surreal.
When she went out, we had to tell her to smile. When she went out and did the TV bit, so it was as if she didn't know how to react.
She and her boyfriend Craig were clearly nervous, but who can blame them? From inside, friends shout, "Smile."
The expressions on the faces are incredible. Craig seems to be trying to smile. Karen's face is the one that stands out. It was like stone, like it had been cast in stone. It was unmoving. There wasn't a smile there. There wasn't a flicker of anything. And then there was the kiss between them. Not a word from either of them. And that really seemed strange. She'd been very keen on occasion to speak to the press and media during the search. Now the daughter's been found, nothing.
Home alone, Shannon Matthews' mum returns, but not yet with her daughter. Good evening. The agonising wait goes on tonight for the mother of Shannon Matthews. Desperate to see her young daughter finally return home, but given no clue by police when that reunion might happen. Detectives are still going through the delicate process of interviewing 9-year-old Shannon to try and find out exactly what happened during the 24 days she was missing. In the past hour,
where Shannon was found, a computer was apparently removed. A close friend of Karen Matthews says the man under arrest is an uncle of Karen's boyfriend, Craig, but she says he was never in their house.
He's obviously a family member, but not a close one. And I know for a fact Karen and Craig knew nothing about it.
This is for Shannon.
That night when Craig and Karen came back, family were already having a party in their house. When we found out where she was found, it sort of like put a damper on the celebrations because we knew that that wasn't the end of it. It was just like chapter 1 finished and going on to the next chapter.
When can Shannon come home? A police statement tonight suggests not for the foreseeable future. Today, they were granted a 24-hour extension to keep questioning Mick Donovan. This was him leaving court. At the flat where he lived and where Shannon was found, evidence was removed. Amid claims and speculation, Karen Matthews and her boyfriend Craig are trying to get back to some kind of normality. It isn't easy.
Having carefully considered all of the material supplied to us by West Yorkshire Police, we have made the decision that there is sufficient evidence and have authorised that Michael Donovan be charged with kidnapping and false imprisonment.
During the course of an investigation like this, you will seize computers to see if you can find any evidence. It may well be that there was something on the computers that Shannon might have had communication with somebody. It might have given us some indication as to what happened to her or where she'd gone. We'd seized all the family computers, and during the examination of those computers, we'd found child sexual abusive images, shocking child sexual abuse images.
The time, 27 minutes to 8. The search for 9-year-old Shannon Matthews is now one of the biggest of its kind ever undertaken by West Yorkshire Police. Well, yesterday I talked to both Shannon's mum and Craig Meehan. There's been a lot of coverage of not least your family, your parents and your brother, talking about how Shannon had a difficult, and your other children had a difficult relationship with Craig.
No. That's untrue.
I'm quoting your parents. We've never seen him, Craig, beat Shannon with our own eyes, but the kids have said it's happened. They've suggested that Craig was hitting Shannon.
No, look, he hasn't. Never, ever touched her. Never.
Police arrested Craig Meehan and charged the 22-year-old with possessing indecent images of children on his computer.
Detectives searched the house and took away several bags of evidence.
Excuse me, gentlemen, please. Thank you.
Craig Meehan was arrested and charged with having a number of sexual images of children. Obviously, it was of some considerable concern.
A big shock for everyone, because everybody's supported Karen and Craig.
I got a phone call saying Craig's been arrested. So I went down and I asked what for, and she said something to do with porn. So I says to Karen, I says, what do you mean porn? And she went, I don't know, they just told me porn. And I just said to her, I said, well, it ain't rocket science. I said, it's obviously child porn, it's got to be, can't be anything else. People were angry, obviously people were angry. At the end of the day, the kids had been in his garden and everything else, and as soon as kiddie porn's brought up, that's it. I didn't know what were happening. It was just people asking questions and I didn't have the answers to the questions. Police rung me and says to me, can you keep hold of Karen's kids? I think it got to about 5:30. And then I got a phone call and they said, can you take them down to community house, but just do it as though you're going on a normal walk? So I said, yeah, no worries.
During the time Shannon was missing, I built quite a bond because they were young and I don't know, I think I kept them occupied so that everybody could go search and Karen didn't need to worry about them. And then it was time to say goodbye, so give them a cuddle, and as soon as that door got shut, the tears started, and then my mum went and handed them over.
So we went down to community house and we were waiting and waiting. It got to about 6:30 and Karen came through the door. They just said to Karen, you know what's gone on today with Craig, don't you? And she went, yeah. And they said, we'd like you to sign the kids over to be put in temporary care till it's all blown over. Reluctantly, she let them go. Karen were obviously crying, but I think I was more heartbroken than her.
My mum was still crying when she got back from handing kids over to social services. It was. I just don't think anybody wants to do that.
The community started to turn somewhat on Karen, and she was becoming very, very vulnerable. They were really annoyed that she'd been living with, as they saw it, a paedophile in Craig Meehan.
You just got to the point where nothing had surprised you. Nothing had surprised you about what were going on from then. You couldn't put your finger on what was wrong, but there was something not right. Natalie lived closer to Karen than I did. She just told me that there was something not right. And I said, right, I'll get a meeting together. Let's get to the bottom of this. So I rung Karen and I said to her, there's questions that only you can answer. So she agreed. The arrangement we made was to meet in Batley Town Centre in a lay-by. Christine, the liaison officer, drove Karen down. Steve, the local bobby, drove me and Natalie down. And then we just all got into Christine's car. I was sat behind Karen and Natalie was sat behind Christine. We just wanted answers. It started off with, why did you want to leave Craig? She says, I didn't. Natalie asked why she had bags in the hallway, ready to leave him. And Karen just kept saying, I didn't, I won't. And then I said, so look, you need to come out with truth. I said, I'll never fall out with you, I'll always be your mate. You just need to come out with truth. And then all of a sudden, she just went, I did it. And then the tears started. I felt shocked, disbelief, angry that she'd wasted all that time. But also pity that she'd left it so long. Poor Christine, liaison officer, just looked at us in bewilderment, and then she got out of the car, made a phone call.
Christine rang me immediately, told me what she'd said, and then I instructed that she should arrest her.
And then she came back and then charged her with perverting the course of justice. When we got down to the police station, I walked Karen to the cell doors. When I left, Karen looked like a little girl lost. Karen says to me, do you promise that you'll come and see me? And I said, yes. And I just left her there. And I just said, I'll see you later.
My mum came back and she was crying. I think my mum was so upset because she'd been played a fool, so to say. Like, she'd organised so much, she'd given up time with her own kids for it all to be fake, for none of it to be true. Me and my mum were heartbroken that night, and then we started to watch interviews back and go back over everything to see what we missed.
I had a lump in my throat, but that were all. But I just think it was like the final piece of jigsaw. And it were done.
She gave various reasons and excuses almost, and accounts, but none of them are particularly plausible in my mind. And that's not unusual in my line of work. You will always interview people. You will always want them to explain what they did and why they did it. But sometimes you just got to accept that the truth can be hard to find. Some people find it difficult to actually tell you the truth at the end of the day. She'd met Mike Donovan at Craig's father's funeral, the wake. She'd got chatting to him, and she'd said that, you know, she was fed up of him. She didn't want to be with him anymore, and that Donovan had effectively offered her refuge for her and her children. He would pick up Shannon from school, and then she would pick up the other two children and make her way to his flat. Donovan did his part But Karen either forgot the day or changed her mind. And when she got home and Shannon didn't materialise, Craig says, where is she, where is she? And as time progressed, she clearly didn't know what to do. And she called the police and reported her missing.
Charged, Shannon Matthews' mother will be prosecuted in connection with her daughter's disappearance.
Well, 250 officers and 60 detectives were involved in the search for Shannon Matthews. It took 3 weeks to find her alive. 3 weeks later, and detectives have brought a case against her mother. And I understand their investigation is still not over. Just over an hour ago, a statement announcing charges.
We have decided that there is sufficient evidence and have authorised that Karen Matthews be charged with perverting the course of justice and child neglect.
Tonight, Karen Matthews' house was boarded up. She told the world she'd lost her daughter. Now she may face losing her liberty.
Which one's going to get arrested next? Which one? Which one?
The whole Meehan family were looked at, and the connections with Karen, Donovan, Craig Meehan were all looked at closely, and arrests were made of quite a number of the family to try and establish whether or not they'd been involved in the disappearance of Shannon. But there was no evidence to link them to the abduction. And whilst it was suspicious, and those suspicions led to their arrest, there was a lack of evidence to link them to it.
He was able to leave the car. He left by the back exit. He was in the back of a police car with his mother next to him, and there was a police car with the blue lights on at the front and the rear. So he's effectively given a police escort out of the back of the magistrate's court, was never seen again.
Good riddance, I suppose. At least he's not coming back on here.
It was a highly charged atmosphere. Matthews and Donovan cut pretty pathetic figures in the glass dock. They didn't look at each other and didn't show much emotion, kept their heads down.
The prosecution case was that the overwhelming likelihood was that the case was motivated by the desire to make money out of obtaining a reward. She could see that rewards were being put up in similar cases, particularly the McCann case. One of the tabloid newspapers put up a substantial reward, and Karen seemed to be focused on obtaining that reward. There was so much evidence that showed that Donovan had, over a period of some weeks, kept Shannon hidden and concealed. Donovan's assertion was that Karen had persuaded or indeed dragooned him into accepting the care of Shannon, and she was to be picked up by him and kept in his flat.
Michael Donovan gave evidence that he'd cared for Shannon. He'd gone out regularly on shopping trips to buy food for her.
Inside the flat, there's a loft hatch. Hanging from that loft hatch was like an elastic noose. On the end, it had a loop that was probably tied around Shannon's waist.
The tether that the police found, so sinister, mapped out so that she could get to certain points in the flat but couldn't get to the front door.
The belief being that that had been deployed when he'd left the flat to go do shopping.
That was a very unusual thing to find, even in a case of kidnap of this nature. It clearly indicated a very dominant personality, somebody who intended, at least in my view, to keep Shannon completely subdued and obedient.
Also found within the flat was a drug called Travelese, which is a travel sickness tablet, and temazepam. Donovan was on quite a number of prescribed drugs, and suddenly those drugs were found within the flat. Now, when Shannon was recovered, she gave a urine sample, and the significance of that would be that we could determine that those drugs had been administered within the previous 36 hours. Well, those drugs clearly do make somebody drowsy. Whether it was an extreme measure to pacify an energetic child, I have no idea, but it was all very shocking.
She said she was forced to take the blame for what happened by the person she trusted most, her partner, Craig Meehan. She told the court she was scared of Craig. She even told the court that on quite a few occasions, Craig Meehan had raped her.
The assertion of the prosecution was that Karen, throughout this case, had told one lie after another. Donovan's defence largely seemed to rest as a matter of shifting the blame onto Karen Matthews, saying essentially it was her plan, her idea, and he'd been pushed into doing what she wanted.
Also found within the flat was a piece of paper. It was handwritten, and there was about 4 or 5 different rules that you've got to keep quiet, stay away from the windows, don't have the TV volume above a certain level. There's some DVDs that you can watch, but only these ones. And then at the bottom of it, in lines letters, were the letters IPU, which was a phrase that Karen and Shannon used, and it stood for I promise you.
Shannon would look at it, look at those 3 words and think, it's going to be all right, because my mum says it is. Disturbing, a method of control on the daughter, even when the mother wasn't there.
Karen's lack of concern for her welfare was quite marked. Karen had gone shopping for a period of about 3 hours after Shannon was alleged to be missing and before making a 999 call. That was, in the view of the prosecution, clearly significant. My view was that that was very significant in pointing possibly to the fact that she knew where Shannon was, showing also her total lack of care for the child.
When the toxicology report from a section of Shannon's hair came back, and it showed that she'd been drugged over a consistent period for 20 months, so from when she was found in Donovan's flat, back to we worked out to when she was 7 years old. This was way before Mick Donovan had any involvement. So somebody, probably Karen Matthews, maybe somebody else as well, were involved in the deliberate sedation of that little girl.
I think my reaction, like many other people's reactions, certainly anybody who was a father of a daughter, was one of a combination of amazement and disgust as a human being.
She was standing steadfastly to the fact that she'd had no involvement.
Of course, when she gets into the dock and she's making denial after denial after denial, all these wild allegations, all these different versions of the story are thrown back at her. She is tied up in knots. She continues to lie, but which lie does she stick to? Because there are so many. Even in a run-of-the-mill court case, the atmosphere when you're waiting for the verdict to come back can be pretty tense. This was absolutely electric. The jury comes back in, and the jury foreman stand up. It was put to him, have you reached a verdict on which you are all agreed? Yes.
The ultimate betrayal, the mother who put greed before her own daughter's safety.
Today, Karen Matthews, along with her co-accused, Michael Donovan, Shannon's uncle, was found guilty of kidnapping her own daughter.
The judge made some interesting closing remarks. Effectively, he said that he didn't believe that Karen Matthews or Michael Donovan could have been responsible for doing what they did, just the two of them, acting alone.
Everybody knows we haven't heard the full story. Everybody knows we haven't. He's just turned around and he said that, sat on his bench, he's just turned around and said this is not the full story. So obviously it's not the full story, and if Karen ain't going to break and say what the full story is, what can us little people, if you like, do to help her?
There may be some truth in what Karen said about she wanted to leave Craig, but when I've spoke to police and I've said I think other people are involved, all I get off the police is you find me the evidence. But if Karen's going to take the can for him, that's Karen's choice.
Police emergency. Hiya, I want to report my daughter is missing, please.
Hundreds of police are involved in a desperate search tonight for a 9-year-old girl.
Shannon, if you're out there, please, darling, come home. I love you so much. Me and your dad, your brothers, your sisters, everybody loves you. Your dad's missing you so much, Shannon.
There's only one explanation. That it all gone too quick, too big, too soon, and the terror that you see is the terror of her being found out.
Come home, Shannon, if you're out there, come home. If anybody's got my daughter, my beautiful princess daughter, please bring her home safe.
It's a performance. It was all there. The trauma on her face, the red eyes from the tears, the black rims from tiredness, the way that she spoke.
Well, it's hard to sleep, really. It's just... I just don't feel the same with them not being there, really. It just feels empty.
She knew that her daughter would be found.
Well, I think that somebody out there will know Shannon, but supposed to probably know me as well. And it's just, I just want her home safe, really.
Karen couldn't control what she was saying. She couldn't keep concealed her own knowledge of what was going on.
It's beyond most people's understanding how a mother could come up with such a plan, moreover, execute it, and then for 3 weeks, under the glare of international spotlight, play act in front of the cameras, and go through with this. I think most people still look at it with some incredulity.
I find it a little difficult, though not impossible, to believe that she was the begetter of the scheme. It may be that in the course of conversation, Donovan came up with the scheme that Karen fell in with and executed, because without her, Shannon could not have come into Donovan's hands. There was clearly a degree of planning and premeditation with whatever was going on.
Karen never approached anybody for a reward, which to me says that she wanted it for the money. I think she just wanted out of a relationship. Like she said in the back of the car, she wanted out of the relationship.
Many people gave a lot of time, effort, and what money they had to help find Shannon. And all along, Karen knew the truth. And yet she was at the centre of all this. And that, I think, was in some ways the most grievous ill of a very unhappy case.
My mum, she'd organised so much, she'd given up time with her own kids for it all to be fake, for none of it to be true.
I feel like the whole community were let down. They all came out, they all did what they did. We were just foolish enough to believe every word that that were coming out of her mouth and her family's mouth about this child missing. As a community, I think we should still be proud of ourselves. It was one of them things you had to live it to believe it, or live through it to believe it.
I can't believe how a mother could plan the disappearance of her daughter, and it's one thing that will never be forgiven. If I saw Karen now, I wouldn't say a word to her. I'd just walk past her, because I couldn't do that to any of my children. I couldn't do that to anybody's child.
Karen made a big mistake. She's lost everything because of this. She's now living a lonely life. 12 years later, I think everybody should just put it to bed now and let Karen get on with her life, let the kids get on with their lives, let the estate get on with their lives, and just let it die.
It was upsetting, and it still is, knowing that I'm not going to see her. I literally lost my best friend. Like the only person I'd want to talk to and want to be around. I genuinely hope she's living the life that she wanted now. After everything she's been through, she deserves to be happy.